Good morning, student. We have started our third lesson, European colonialism in India. In that first we discuss about the colonialism of Portuguese in India, and after that we had started with the British colonialism in India. In the last lecture we had discussed about the British East India Company, its impact, and after that we had seen that Britisher they established factories because they wanted to keep their goods, they wanted to store that goods, and that's why they needed place, as well as they wanted the place where they can rest. In 1623 the British government under the civil and the military law granted the company an authority of adopting punitive measures for the erring staff. Not only this, but the company also given the right of monopoly to trade in the eastern countries. So company was given the authority to the Britisher that they can do trading with the eastern countries, and Charles II, who was the king of the England, he had built forts in India. Why? Because he wanted to maintain his army and to make the treaties with the non-Christians. In the 17th century, the company operated from the Surat and Madras, that is in Chennai. The eastern coast, Odisha, Bengal in India, and the other eastern countries were under the company's authority. The factories at the Rajapur in Maharashtra, port city of Mokha in Red Sea, Basra in the Persian Gulf were controlled by the Surat center. In Surat, they appointed an accountant and in charge of the store, a treasurer. Treasurer means the person who look after the financial matter, and clerk also. In addition, they appointed Christian priest, a surgeon and his assistant, and cooks, because they used to provide meal to the company workers. Company's president, personal servants, and a trumpet blower. Now here you can see the Surat factory, which was established by the Britisher. So student, here I want to mention that the factories which were established by the Britisher, they used to acquire the large plots of a land for these factories. These plots were used to build the warehouses. Warehouses means where the goods are kept. Residential quarters and offices were built on these plots. The main building of the factory carried their flag, which was known as a Union flag, Union Jack, and the Britisher they used to provide the meal to the staff, which was included bread, meat, rice, khichdi, or pulses, and the rice and the pickle. Company had created beautiful gardens for the benefit of the staff at Surat, Karwar, Machilipatnam, Petapuli, Chennai, and the Mumbai. Okay, so the Britisher they also appointed British citizens in their factories. Not only they appointed the Indians, but also they appointed the British citizens in different positions like the as a apprentices, clerk, and the factors. Factors means the person who work in the factory. Okay, and everybody right from the president to the apprentices live in the factory premises. So everybody who was working for the factory, they lived in the factory premises only. All the facilities were given to the employees. All were provided the food by the company mess, and they were permitted to trade the various things. They had that right. They could do the trading with the other companies. Only some goods, except some commodities, except like textiles, spices, wood, lead, corals, ivory, etc. Rest of the things they had that right. They could sell to the another country. The company started building in India as part of their strategy. They built a fort and a factory in Chennai. The fort was named as Fort St. George. Here you can have the glimpse of Fort St. George. A mint was also established in Chennai. The British issued their own coinage of gold, silver, alloy, copper from this mint. Mints means the huge building. So here the Britisher, they used to make the gold coin, silver, copper in this building. So student, you can see here Fort St. George. Here I want to give you the extra information about the Fort St. George. Now the East India Company EIC, which had entered in India around 600 for trading activities. They had began licensed trading at Surat, which was its initial bastions. However, to secure its trade lines and commercial interest in the spice trade, it felt the necessity of the port closer to Malaccan Strait and succeeded in purchasing a piece of coastal land. Where the company began the construction of a harbour and a fort. The fort was completed on 23rd April 1644 at the coast of St. George Day, celebrated in honor of the patron of Saint of England. The fort, hence Christian Fort St. George, faced the sea and some fishing villages and soon it became the hub of merchant activity. It gave birth to new settlements area called Georgetown, which grew to envelop the village and laid the formation of the city of Madras. It also helped to establish English influence over the Carnatic and to keep the kings of Arcot and Srirangapatna as well as the French forces based on the Pondicherry at bay. In 1666, after the EIC received the word of the formation of the new French East India Company, the fort was strengthened and enlarged while its garrison was increased. Charles II, who was the king of the England, in 1661 he got engaged to Braganza, the princess of the Portugal. And the king of the Portugal, he gifted the island of Mumbai to Charles II on this occasion. Abraham Shipman, an Englishman, was assigned 500 soldiers and was appointed as a governor of Bombay. Student, in 1665, the Mumbai was fully under the British control. Mumbai comprised the seven islands, namely the Mumbai, Mahim, Paral, Wadala, Worli, Sion, which is also known as Shiv, and the Mazgaon. पिवळं झालंय का मम्मी? पिवळं झालंय का? नाही ना. इतक्या जोरात? हे घे. चांगली केली का हो म्हणून? मनवा अजिबात बोल नको, मी रेकॉर्डिंग चालू करते. "350 years ago, that the King Charles II, he declared the East India Company he declared to lease East India Company sorry he declared to lease Mumbai to the East India Company because the expenditure for its maintenance was high and the income was very less, and that's why he decided to hand over Mumbai's part to East India Company. In 1669, the company appointed Sir George as governor of Surat and commander-in-chief of Mumbai. A British mint was established in Mumbai and the coins of silver, copper and zinc were issued from there. This encouraged the merchants and artisans to come and settle down in Mumbai. The company had 5 to 6 small ships and around 300 soldiers to secure the Mumbai. The soldiers were given guns and the swords. Student, now the Dutch who ruled on India for 150 years. So here we can say that few in India realized that for almost 150 years during the early phase of European colonialism, when the trading companies were settling sail for the rich Indian subcontinent, it was the Dutch who were the dominant players in trade. So successful were they, and their primary trading arm, the Dutch East India Company, became the first global multinational company. With many first to its credit, the Dutch East India Company was instrumental in the introduction of many of the concepts that we take for granted in stock market across the world. But the Dutch East India Company fell almost as fast as it rose. But even today, you will find hints of the Dutch influence in words in Bengali, old forts in a village in Kerala, and in Surat. Now, first, we will get the information about the Dutch East India Company. It was established by a charter in 1602 CE, 2 years after its more famous peer, the East India Company. The Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, was formed to cater to the growing demand for the Indian spices from Asia. And it made such a grand success of it that it became the world's first multinational corporation in the modern sense. It began trading in India in 1604 after a treaty was signed between the Zamorin of Calicut and the head of the Dutch. The Zamorin wanted to use the Dutch to get the Portuguese out of the Malabar coast. The Dutch wanted to the same, as they wanted to exclusive rights to trade. Under this treaty, they promised to support each other as long as the sea and the sun. The Dutch made two attempts in 1604 as well as in 1639 to defeat the Portuguese. But both ended in failure and Malabar remained under the Portuguese influence. The Dutch government issued a license to the company to conduct trading with the eastern countries. The same license permitted them to appoint staff, to establish factories, to build forts, to engage in battles against the eastern countries, and also the sign treaties with them. The Dutch established their presence on the east coast of India. In 1608, they built their first factory at Pulicat, around 60 km north of Chennai, with permission from the Vijayanagar rulers. Soon they put up more factories and trading stations all along the coast of the present day Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. In places like Masulipatnam, Nizampatnam, Nagapattinam, and even as far as Golconda. Apart from the cotton textile, they traded in silk, indigo, and Golconda diamonds. The most highly prized was the Coromandel chings, a callio fabric in a floral pattern used to make traditional dresses for the Dutch women. Today, this craft can only be seen in the Dutch city of Hindelopen, where they still make dresses from the chintz design imported by the Dutch in the 17th century. In 17th century, the company had established colonies and the factories near about the eastern coast of Africa to the Japan. And here it covers the present day regions of the Mozambique, South Africa, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Siam, Vietnam, Cambodia, Taiwan, China, Japan, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Dutch, they built the various buildings in their factory premises and also fortification walls around them because they wanted to protect their area. They installed cannons on the fortification walls for the security. The Dutch, they had native people in their staff members too. Dutch established their first factory in the year 1602 at Petapuli in the northern part of the Coromandel coast. and we can see there are other factories were built in Machilipatnam, Pulicat, Korilal, Agra, Ahmedabad, Potnawa, Bharuch, Sinsura, Tata, Khambayat, Surat and Nagapattan. Dutch they got the permission from the Vijayanagar court and built the forts in Pulicat and Nagapatnam. Dutch defeated the Portuguese and acquired the forts of Kochi, Kannur and Kollam. And finally they obtained the monopoly for the black paper trading by entering a treaty with the king of the Kochi. In the 17th century, the Dutch naval force was very strong, and therefore, at any given moment, they could send their 20 warships and near about 3 to 4,000 soldiers for the battle. The Mughal, Adil Shahi and the Qutub Shahi ships were required to obtain the license from the Dutch. So if the Mughal, Adil Shahi and Qutub Shahi they wanted to do trading, so first they had to take the permission from the Dutch. They had to take the license from the Dutch, and if they didn't, so that time ship was launched without a license, so that time it was seized by the Dutch. Now next one is French. The French East India Company was formed in 1664 AD during the reign of the King Louis XIV to trade with India. In 1668 AD, the French established their first factory at Surat, and in 1669 AD established another French factory at Masulipatam. The last European people to arrive in India, they were the French. The French came to India mainly with the purpose of trade and commerce. From their arrival until the 1741 AD, the objective of the French, like those of the British, were purely commercial. The French East India Company took hold of Yanam in 1723 AD, Malabar coast in 1725 AD, and Karaikal in 1739 AD. The company was given the authority to trade with eastern countries, to maintain the army and navy, and also exemption from the taxes. The company was given the authority to enter the war or treaty with the eastern rulers. In 1666, company sent a diplomatic contingent, means a group of people, to Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, and they obtained the permission to establish a factory in Surat. The first French factory in Surat was settled down in 1668. Then the factories at Pondicherry, Chandranagar, Mahe, Karikal and Machilipatnam were established. In that period, French they were fighting with the Qutub Shahi ruler and the Dutch. Now the Pondicherry was the main center of the French for every operation, and which was ruled by the Nawab of Karnataka. Now that time the situation was like the Nawab families they were fighting among themselves, because they wanted to get the position of a king, and that um, and the advantage was taken by the British and the French, and they started to intervening in the matter, and that's why it was resulted in the three battles between the British and the French from 1744 to 1763 C, and these wars were known as the Carnatic Wars. Okay, so student, here you can see that the Carnatic Wars, also spelled the Carnatic, Karnatic, the series of the military contests during the 18th century between the British, the French, the Marathas and the Mysore for control of the coastal strip of the eastern India from Nellore, north of Madras, southward till the Tamil country. The name Carnatic properly refers to the region occupied by the Kannada speaking people, which roughly correspond to the modern Indian state of Karnataka. In the 18th century, the coastal Carnatic was dependency of the Hyderabad within the Mughal Empire. So here we have seen that Pondicherry, it was the main center for the French operation, which was under the influence of Nawab of Karnataka, and the Nawab family, they were fighting among themselves because they wanted the position, they wanted the throne, and the British and the French, they took the advantage of this condition and they started to intervene in the matter, and which became the result of the battles between the British and the French, which was known as the Carnatic Wars. Finally, the French, they were defeated by the British in the third battle. With this defeat of the French, there was no European rival left in India for the British. Okay, so here we can see that in the last third battle, defeat of the French, there was no European rival left in India for the British. And what happened next? Now that we will see in the next lesson. We are going to learn about the resistance to the foreign powers in India put up by the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Okay, so here the lesson ended. If you have any query, any doubt, so you can just drop it in comment box, and tomorrow, Tuesday, I am going to conduct doubt clearing session on lesson number 2. So student, if you have any query related second chapter, so tomorrow you can ask me. And start to write the answers, start to solve the exercise. If you won't get any answer, so that time you can ask me that particular answer I am going to provide you. In this lesson, only the 4 questions are given in the exercise. First A and B, and second one, they are objective type of the question. Third one is brief type of answer, you have to give the explanation for the statement, and last one is you have to write answer in detail. Okay, so try to find out the answer, read the lesson one time. In the next week I am going to held doubt clearing session for this lesson, but tomorrow we have doubt clearing session for the second lesson. Okay, thank you.